The 2026 NFL Combine for the defensive side of the ball has come to a close, which for the Chicago Bears is the main event, as for the first time in maybe team history, not actually, shout out my guy Sid Luckman, the offense is way ahead of the defense. So we are going to be looking mainly at the defense today for this video, and to do that we have to look at our defensive coordinator, Dennis Allen, which we are going to be looking at his former draft history with the New Orleans Saints to really see what he depends on and wants for his players, which for his defensive ends are really big, stocky guys who can play the run, and for his corners also really big guys who can jam at the line, play good man coverage. So we're going to be looking at his past draft picks to see who possibly at the Combine met and rose to his requirements to see who could be draft eligible for the Chicago Bears. Dennis Allen was hired by the New Orleans Saints in 2015 and was with the organization until 2024. These are the defensive ends that were drafted during that time. Al Muhammad, who was 6'3.5", 253 pounds with 33 1/4 inch arms, who had a 1.73 10-yard split. Trey Hendrickson, who was 6'4", 266 pounds, 32 inch arms, and 1.5 10-yard split. And yes, was drafted by the Saints, was not drafted by the Bengals. He did sign there. I know a lot of people think he's always been there, but no, they did actually sign him. Marcus Davenport, 6'6", 264 pounds with 33 5/8 inch arms, who had a 1.63 10-yard split. Peyton Turner, 6'5", 270 pounds, 35 inch arms, and did not run. Isaiah Foskey, 6'5", 264 pounds with 34 inch arms, and a 1.66 10-yard split. You might have known the pattern there. All those guys were around 1.70 or lower because you want to check with their explosiveness. That's why we don't really care about the 40-yard dash for the D-line. It's more about how explosive you can get off the ball, which Dennis Allen cares about with that. And he cares about big frame, big body, because you can stop the edge and stop the run that way, which is another big parameter we're going to be looking at, because the Combine is not all just running. The measurables, honestly, are a huge part of the Combine, maybe the biggest part of the Combine for some teams, and I think the Bears might be one of those teams, because Dennis Allen needs people to be a certain way, and that goes for all positions, corner, defensive end, and these are the parameters for defensive end, around 6'3", 264 pounds, and 33 inch arms. Obviously, there can be some differences, and 6'4", not 6'3", by the way, but that's fine. Like, Trey Hendrickson only has 32 inch arms, not 33, and Al Muhammad's not 6'4", like I should have said, he's 6'3.5". But also, those guys were a little later, like Muhammad's a 6th-round pick, and Hendrickson is a 3rd-round pick. So those were the guys that were drafted before. Who are the guys that meet those requirements in this draft on the defensive line, end? Well, here they are. TJ Parker, Zion Young, Gabe Jacas, Patrick Payton, and Vincent Anthony Jr. were the players who perfectly fit or were the closest to fitting the description that Dennis Allen requires. So these are the players on the defensive end portion we are going to be looking at today. First, Vincent Anthony Jr. out of Duke, 6'6", 258 pounds, 34 1/8 inch arms, 1.67 10-yard split, and he's very raw. He's a guy that you're just going to be banking on potential, probably going to go a little bit later in the draft, not 1st or 2nd, I don't even know 3rd round, but he's someone that if you could get up and get that pass rush move into, he could be very, very good one day because of this frame and his big body and his ability that he does have some juice and burst with, you say, the 1.67, by the way, 10-yard split, but right now, he's going to need some work, which is why I won't go super early, but he could be something one day. Patrick Payton out of Miami, 6'5", 260, 330, fits all the things. Did not run, and if you don't run, we're not going to hold it against you. And then he's a 5th-year senior, so he's played a lot of football, so he's a guy that could probably plug and play. Again, I don't know if he's going to be a 1st or 2nd-round pick, but someone that could probably come in later and play right away. Gabe Jacas out of Illinois, 6'4", again, 260, 33. He did not run, but again, if his comp, also looking at your analysis by Lance Zierlein, who does a great job, his comp is Matthew Judon. That would be an amazing, amazing player for you to grade. And again, he's a well-built, tremendous play strength, which is, again, what Dennis Allen is exactly looking for. Zion Young, 6'6", 262, 33 inch arms out of Missouri. He didn't run, but again, long, well-built, with size. That is what Dennis Allen is looking for. And then TJ Parker, who's a guy who could be a 1st-round pick for the Bears at 25, but he also might not be there. So I wanted to, I didn't want to add the top guys like Arbel Reese, Ruben Bain, guys that you think there's going to be David Bailey, there's going to be no shot that there's that 25. So I just wanted to focus on more reasonable 1st-round picks or later draft selections. And that goes for every position, not just defensive end. And so with TJ Parker, he had a 1.61 10-yard split, great. And then he's kind of also more raw in the pass rush area. I think he can really stop the run great right now, but his pass rushing will need some work. But again, he's someone like Vincent Anthony, but like a more ready version than Vincent Anthony Jr. But if he also, again, can get those pass rush moves up, he can be a monster in the league. He just might not be very good day one, but he can be very good one day. And those are the players of defensive end who fit his scheme. Now let's go and see what cornerbacks fit. And to do that, we got to look back at the draft history. So these are all the cornerbacks drafted during that time period. Kool-Aid McKinstry, 5'11", 199, 32-inch arms, and he did not run. Alante Taylor, 6 foot, 189, 32-inch arms, and he ran a 4.36 and a 1.5 10-yard split. Paulson Adebo, 6'1", 198, 31.5-inch arms, and he did not run. Marshawn Lattimore, 6 foot, 193, 31 and 1/4-inch arms, and he ran a 4.36 and a 1.49 10-yard split. Jordan Howden, 6 foot, 203, 32 and 1/4, 4.49 and 1.55. Cam Moore, 5'10 and a half, 203, 31 and 3/8, and he did not run. And you might notice a little difference in the last two, because obviously those two were not first or second round picks like the others. These were a fifth and a sixth round pick, so you can understand there being little exceptions, like with Howden, he ran a 4.49, not like the other blazing fast people we saw, and Cam Moore was only 5'10", which brings us to our requirements. It's really 6 foot, 200 pounds, 32-inch arms, and 4.45 or under, because that's what I'm going to equate to with the outlier of Jordan Howden and Cam Moore being 5'10". I think he's really an exception. I think he wants about 6 foot, 200 pounds, and that size and speed. So those are the players we're going to be looking for in the combine. Let's see who it is. Devin Moore, Dalen Everett, Sicario Davis, and Empress Krasok. Sorry if I mispronounced the name. It's a really great one, a unique one, just a little hard for me to pronounce. All were the best players to fit the Chicago Bears description of cornerback, being over 6 foot, around 200 pounds, and over 32-inch arms. So all of them, I'll fit them requirement. What do I like about them individually? Krasok, I think, is the best of the bunch. I think he could be an actual, maybe possible day one starter. Sicario Davis is my favorite. I don't think he's the best, but he's the one that I personally would pick later in the third or fourth round. Dalen Everett, nice, good prospect. He's a Georgia defensive player. What else do I need to say? And Devin Moore, he's a little bit slower at 4.5, but fits all of the requirements, except that, and 4.5 is still perfectly acceptable speed. People overrate, in my opinion, the 40 time way too much. A corner can be 4.5 and be a perfectly great player, not even a good player, a great player. So those are the cornerbacks, in my opinion, that the Bears can really be looking at, as they're tall, lengthy, and really could fit the athletic profile that they want. The safeties drafted by Dennis Allen was tenure of the Saints are Marcus Williams, Von Bell, Latrell Jamerson, Saquon Hampton, and C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Now, looking for all the profiles, you can see that to be drafted as a safety for Dennis Allen, you need to be 5'11 plus, 200 plus, and about a 4.5 or under. I'm not going to include arm length in this, because if a safety, you play a lot more zone and a lot more in the box, way less press man, so we're not going to be including that in this. And with that in mind, for all of these players and all the players at the Combine now, who were the players that did the best and rose their stock for the Bears? Let's see. Well, the players who rose their stock the most for the Bears were also players who just rose their stock the most for the safety region, and Dylan Fieneman and Emmanuel McNeil Warren. These are the two players I could see the Bears actually taking in the first round, with these other options and Jalen Kilgore, BJ Payne, and Kamari Ramsey coming up in later rounds. And I think these could all be great options, and I can see even multiple of them possibly being picked. I don't know about multiple of this 5, but multiple safeties being picked, because the Bears literally have no starting safeties on the roster right now. So I can see any single one of these being a possible option, and I can see multiple of them being an option, and I think a safety in the first round also is an option. And personally, for me, Dylan Fieneman would be the one I want, but I would also be okay with Emmanuel McNeil Warren. Brian Breesy and Jordan Jackson were the only 2 defensive tackles taken by Dennis Allen during his tenure with the Saints, which in my opinion does not allow enough data to size a predictable pattern for Dennis Allen for players that he likes. So for defensive tackles, we are going to skip it and move straight on to linebacker. Dennis Allen drafted Alex Anzalone, Zach Bond, Pete Werner, DeMarco Jackson, and Jalen Ford at his time with the New Orleans Saints. Looking at these players, you can see that Dennis Allen prefers a linebacker 6'2", 235 pounds plus, and can run around a 4.65 or under. And with that in mind, we will see in this combine which players check these boxes. Anthony Hill Jr., Jake Galladay, Jacob Rodriguez, Caleb Ballard-Orr, and Kendall Daniels best check the boxes of height, weight, and speed that the Chicago Bears are looking for to play linebacker for Dennis Allen with the coordinator. And these 5 players I could all see taking in day 2 to day 3. I don't see a linebacker going day 1, especially for the Chicago Bears. I could see one sneaking in, just not for the Bears. And these are the linebacker prospects I could see really being looked at by the Bears and could see being drafted in day 2 and 3. Thank you for watching this video of the Chicago Bears 2026 Combine Risers. And with that, I hope you were a little more prepared for the NFL Draft, a little more prepared for what Dennis Allen likes in the system, and a little bit more prepared for what might not happen. And if you disagree with me, let me down know in the comments. If I left anyone out, let me down know in the comments. And anything else you want to know, any video suggestions, anything like that, any tips, anything you didn't like about the video, just let me know down in those comments below. Thank you, and I will see you later.